Best car dealership you'll find anywhere in Louisiana. Bergeron, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Volvo, 3525 Veterans Boulevard in North Arnold. You want the best deal on a vehicle, anytime, anywhere? You get it right here at Bergeron. That's where we are this evening as sportsNOLAtv is back. Ken Trahan with you. So glad that you could join us once more as we peruse football around South Louisiana and beyond. And what a weekend it was. Last weekend, the focus was on LSU. This weekend, the focus on the Saints. And why not? As it was a date with arch rival Atlanta, the Falcons. And this time in the other dome, the Georgia Dome. Trahan with you. Bergeron Automotive, veterans in North Arnold and Metairie. sportsNOLAtv continues. Great that you are with us. Another overtime game for the Saints and the Falcons. Been there, done that. Last year it didn't work out too well in the Superdome. This time it worked out very well in the Georgia Dome. Here to break it down, per usual, former Saints wide receiver, par excellence, and my friend, Torrence Small.
Glad to be back, and is always glad to be back with a win, especially against Atlanta.
Also my friend and outstanding contributor to sportsNOLA.com.
It's getting deep now.
It really is. Award-winning contributor.
Very.
And a gentleman at that.
Oh, my goodness.
Brian Allee-Walsh. Brian.
Great to be here and to share the dais with everyone. I'm honored.
And our special guest today is irregular, but he's really a great guy. He's also an outstanding contributor to sportsNOLA.com, does games for ESPN, of course, does TigerVision games as well, and has done prep work for many, many years and got him involved a long, long time ago when I was young and he was old. Now he's older, and I'm not as old yet. So with that in mind, please welcome Rene Nadeau. Rene?
What a distinguished group this is. And I had to look up distinguished in the dictionary because I maybe using a word, wrong word.
Did you say extinguished or
yes,
distinguished?
Extinguished.
Okay,
it's great to be. It really
well,
is.
You'll get to use that later.
Very.
See what you do.
I'm familiar with Bergeron, and this is a great place. I'm really glad to be a part of this at this location, too.
Okay, Rene, let's start with you. Saints run the ball 16 times, and they win the game. That's the least amount of times they've rushed the football and won a game in Saints history. They tie their record. And, in fact, as Lenny Van Gilder pointed out, prior to overtime, they'd only run it, 14 times because they ran Ingram twice in overtime. Actually ran it 3 times in overtime on their first possession. They had a carry as well. They still won the game with 16 carries. Proves you can do it, right?
Yeah, and the thing is, Drew throws the ball 43 times, no sacks. So, and the Saints offensive line did a good job against Ray Edwards, John Abraham, 2 good defensive ends. And Sean Weatherspoon, a good outside linebacker for the Falcons. So very active Falcon defense, and they kept Drew Brees upright.
Torrence, I thought Brees played sensational. He's on the road. You really can't change things very much in terms of plays at the line of scrimmage. You have to go on silent counts. And, of course, the defense knows when you're going to snap the ball by and large. And he was deadly accurate. They dropped 4 balls, and not even close to throwing a pick in this game. And I just thought he was terrific.
He was precise. He was on point. Had a couple drops in there. But overall, the game was great for him. But on the other hand, Matt Ryan, anytime Matt Ryan has to throw the ball 52 times for Atlanta's not doing great. I don't think they're going to come out on top in most games as they did this game here.
Brian, if you want to look at heroes for the Saints, there are many in this game. But I thought Jabari Greer frustrated Roddy White. I thought White was not only ordinary, he made mistakes, he committed penalties, he caught 4 passes, was not a threat. And I thought he lost his cool a little bit, and Jabari Greer had a lot to do with it.
I agree with you. And of course, for the Falcons to have lost Julio Jones like they did, Kenny, hurt their vertical game. But I agree with you. I thought the corners played really well. It was good getting Tracy Porter back on the field as well.
Rene, it's pretty interesting. It may have hurt their game to a degree vertically, but then they got Harry Douglas, who's faster than anybody in the league, and he's getting deep down the middle over and over again. So they lose one guy, next man up may have been better.
And he's been doing it since he came out of Louisville, and he's a great receiver. He'd be a feature guy on any other team, but he steps up in Julio Jones' spot and really hit an outstanding game. And, Douglas with 8 receptions, he's certainly somebody that you need to watch.
Brian, this was another game where calls have made a difference in this game. The call on Jimmy Graham was, I don't want to call it a phantom call. It was a totally unnecessary call. The illegal contact on Lance Moore was ridiculous. It's one thing to pick up a flag for interference. The contact was clearly beyond 5 yards. What are you doing picking up that flag? What's the justification there?
I don't know, and that's one of those things, Kenny, is they'll probably get a letter from the league again that either they blew the call or that they're sorry about the call or something. But my feeling is, Kenny, probably like the guys in the panel here, is that if a play like that doesn't really affect the outcome of a play, if it has nothing to do with it, let it go. Just let it go.
I agree with you. And Torrence, as you look at the way this game unfolded, the Saints, as we talked about, threw the ball well. Ironically, I thought their defense played well with the exception of that one drive that they allow where they let Douglas get wide open down the middle of the field 3 straight times. Other than that, I thought they did a pretty good job on balance.
Defense played a great game. We didn't let Michael Turner get loose. He had a couple big runs, but nothing major that hurt us. And they kept the ball a lot in the first half. But other than that, we kept them in check. We bend, but we didn't break. The one thing they didn't give up, we didn't give up touchdowns. We kept giving them opportunities to make field goals, which they missed, which helped us out. You need touchdowns in order to beat us because we can score points.
Rene, one of the unsung heroes for the Saints has to be Thomas Morstead. He shanks one punt, but he punts him down at the 1 and at the 6 rugby style. He kicks 5 touchbacks, the other ball deep in the end zone on kickoffs. Combined with his kickoffs and his punting, this guy is having a Pro Bowl season.
Absolutely. And Sean Payton said as much last week, Kenny, that he is on course to make the Pro Bowl, and he deserves it. I don't think you see a better punter in the NFL. Placement, hang time, 5-second hang time. He does a great job. And as far as kickoffs, all of his kickoffs, most of them are not returnable.
Brian, teams that know each other and play each other twice a year, no tendencies. Atlanta game planned the Saints very well in the respect that they took away the Saints screen game and they took away Darren Sproles. And I thought they game planned him completely out of the game. He had 3 yards from scrimmage.
Yeah, as far as all the opponents so far, Kenny, I think they've done the best job on Darren Sproles. They really negated him. And I know he picked up a hit in the thigh, that hurt his, but he came back on the field. But you're right, they negated him, and you know how this is a copycat league. They're going to be, other teams are going to be doing the same thing if they can. And you know what? Actually, teams have been doing a pretty good job against the screen recently.
Yeah. But with that taking him away, they left the middle open for Colston.
Colston, certainly, yeah.
And he had a big game because they had a linebacker they tried to put on him and it wasn't successful because they had somebody spying on Sproles.
Right.
And that's exactly, the thing is, something I talked to Sean Payton about last week, how much Darren Sproles opens up everybody else, and Jimmy Graham and Marcus Colston and guys like that. And when you have to focus so much attention on Darren Sproles offensively, from a defensive perspective, it opens up other guys, and I think yesterday was a prime example.
Prior to this game, Brian, they were taking Jimmy Graham away. In the 2 previous games, they were rolling the safety to him, whereas yesterday he had some space to roam.
Yeah, if you look, I think he had 12 targets yesterday. He caught 7 and dropped 3, right? I mean, he was a big factor in the game.
Yes.
He just keeps getting better. And, this offense and Sean Payton and Drew Brees, they're willing to let him make a mistake or 2 in a game because he's so darn effective.
John Casey, the guy's 42 years old. He's now 18 of 22, and he's 16 of 16 inside of 40 yards. This guy was a very good pickup for the Saints.
And let me tell you that, that was clutch for us because Atlanta couldn't score or they were making field goals. And that's big for us because we're a team that can put points on the board. And then whenever we can get down, we can get 3. You count the 3 because we used to 7. But whenever you can get 3, hey, that can help you.
Well, as I mentioned, the guy's perfect inside of 40 yards, and that's what you're looking for. Anything beyond that is, as we say in these parts, lanyap. And he gave them some lanyap yesterday, and he's done it throughout the course of the season. With Garrett Hartley down, he's done a solid job for this football team, giving them a good kicking game in conjunction with Thomas Morstead and the likes of Darren Sproles. When we return in just a moment, we'll take a look around the NFL. We'll review the NFC South, and we'll take a look at the scores from Sunday in the league as sportsNOLAtv continues from Bergeron Automotive, 3525 Veterans Boulevard, corner of North Arnold, our gracious hosts, and where you get the best deals all the time, and of course right here on sportsNOLAtv. Our trivia question for sportsNOLAtv this evening: who did the Saints defeat for the franchise's first ever overtime win? Was it A, the San Francisco 49ers, B, the Chicago Bears, C, the Atlanta Falcons, or was it D, the Philadelphia Eagles? Think about it. Come up with the correct answer. Be ready for it when we give it a little bit later on in the show, and we'll see just how smart you are. Probably a lot smarter than Mo, Larry, and Curly here, but that's another story. Ken Trahan with you, sportsNOLAtv. I really liked them, but couldn't resist a shot. Nonetheless, anytime we get a chance to take a shot, we'll get more of those later, by the way, we do so. It's all in good, clean Christian fun, right? Okay, the NFL was another interesting weekend, in the NFC South, of course, was interesting. The Saints control their own destiny by playing the Falcons, and boy, did they ever take advantage of that, as well as Tampa Bay spitting the bit again. I told you they're not very good, and Carolina got destroyed. So now the Saints clearly in control heading into the second half via the bye week at 7-3. Brian, clearly this was a huge win. We knew it would be when you come out of this with home games against the Giants and Lions, and then, of course, a road game that nobody's talking about at Tennessee, which will be a tough game for the Saints.
Absolutely. I mean, 7-3 means a heck of a lot better than 6-4 going into a bye week, and that's the important thing, Kenny, is that they're going in on a positive note. And now I understand the team's off until the following Tuesday. They got almost 8 days off now, so that's a reward for a big win in the Georgia Dome.
Rene, it's good to recharge the batteries, good to get physical rest. You'll get some guys back as a result that have been out with injuries. That certainly helps. At the same time, there's also that effect of having time off when you're playing well, and that could be one of those situations where it's a drag and you don't play as well coming back. Regardless, there's pluses and minuses here.
Yeah, but Jolan Dunbar's done a good job, but it'd be vital to get Jonathan Vilma back. And I think this time will give him enough time to rest up and get back and stuff. And, just like Brian said, that win certainly made a big difference when it pushed Atlanta that much further back and, kind of took control of the division. And Josh Freeman and Cam Newton now, they're kind of falling back. Two young quarterbacks that looked pretty impressive early on, but now as the season has worn on, they've kind of fallen back in sophomore, and freshman problems.
And Tampa Bay has a tough schedule the rest of the way. Torrance, this is a two-team race. I don't see anybody else being able to impact this race in the South.
No, Tampa, I don't think they have it. Playing young, they are young. They're playing up to their age right now. Atlanta right now, if they don't get back to their running game, they're going to see more of the same what they had this Sunday.
Let's take a look at some of the results from around the NFL from this past weekend. The Oakland Raiders, of course, a Thursday night game beating the Chargers. What's happened to Phillip Rivers? The Pittsburgh Steelers with a big road win over the Bengals, and they start to assume some level of control in that division. Dallas, what a Jekyll and Hyde team. They've got a lot of talent, and they rolled Buffalo, Nelson and his cheerleader girlfriend notwithstanding. Tennessee all over Carolina. First time we've seen the Panthers get annihilated. St. Louis with a 1-point win over Cleveland in a survival game. Jacksonville keeps the Colts winless. Indianapolis scoring 3 points. Denver over Kansas City. Tebow completes 2 passes, 1 for a touchdown. He runs for a score. The guy's 3-1 as a starter. Lay off of him. Arizona over Philadelphia, the dream team. Those nightmares continue. How about Seattle winning at home against Baltimore? The Ravens really blew it in that situation. Reggie Bush, 2 more touchdowns. Miami over Washington. Look out for Houston. They could be the sleeper team, if not the best team in the AFC. All over hapless Tampa Bay, and the Chicago Bears are playing very well, and they expose the Lions, who can't run the football, 37-13. Good game. San Francisco looked for real, having watched that game, beating the Giants 27-20. They've got a terrific defense. And New England shut Ryan up 37-16. Tom Brady, 3 touchdown passes, and the Vikings and the Packers in tonight's game. All right. What impressed you, Torrance, around the NFL yesterday?
2 completions with a win. Tebow, I don't know how you're doing it. You keep doing what you're doing. You're winning ball games, 3-1. Congratulations to you.
What about you, Rene? What's your take on what happened yesterday?
Well, over the week in Oakland, starting to really catch fire, and I think that really impressed me. Detroit and Buffalo, big disappointments. They looked like they were, like the catching fire. Now it looks like the house on fire with those 2 teams.
Ryan?
3 things. Tampa Bay and Carolina. Tampa Bay for sure. Stick a fork in them. They're done. San Francisco is the real deal. And then I think the Bears are going to be a team that has to contend with. And those that have counted out Pittsburgh and New England, it's premature. Don't count them out. They're going to be there at the end.
I couldn't agree with you more with those 2, and I couldn't agree with you more about the NFC. Chicago Bears have figured out how to protect Cutler. Forte's having a tremendous year. And, of course, the 49ers are the real deal. They're going to be hard to catch for that 2nd seed and a bye in the first round. One of the interesting features of our show each and every week is inviting you, the fans, to be part and parcel of the show and ask our distinguished panelists a question. We thank Tony Borley and Amy Falcon of State Farm Insurance for their continuing support of Sports NOLA TV. We ask you to support Tony and Amy and State Farm. Our first fan question, state your name and fire away.
Hi, I'm Tony. Yeah, I just want to know, what do you think the problem with the Saints defense is? Do you think it's play calling or the player personnel, or do you think it's a combination of both? Because they said Malcolm Jenkins is supposed to have like an all-pro season. He's really struggling this year, not really making big plays, no turnovers, no nothing like that. You can say it's Jonathan Vilma, but even when Vilma's in there, they still struggle to stop the run up the middle. They go and bring in these big-name defensive tackles. They're not really getting penetration. The Cameron Jordan's not really coming off the edge. I mean, is it the play calling, the personnel, because they constantly keep changing around? Or you think it's because they keep changing their defensive lineup and not quite, you know?
Okay. Brian, Rene?
I'll take it. Tony, you ask a lot of questions. They're all good, and I think you answered a lot of your own questions, too. We'll use yesterday's game as a quick example. Inside the red zone, which they had been having troubles with all along, they did a great job inside the red zone against the Falcons offense. They stopped them 3 times in critical situations. Now, the one problem I have is on that last drive in regulation, all right, where they just forgot what they were supposed to do. Greg Williams kept bringing the blitz all the time. They kept beating it all the time. And you know what? They're very fortunate not to have lost that game.
Rene?
Well, you know, the thing is that Greg Williams' defense is predicated on the pressure. Yesterday they had some good run blitzes. That is evidenced by that play they stuffed in overtime. But, you know, some guys, with Vilma out, that certainly makes a big difference. And you got some guys like Patrick Robinson and I are learning. But I think their defense I think the big thing is it's a gambling-type defense, and sometimes it pays big dividends.
Yeah, Tony hits it on Jenkins. 41.5 tackles this year, no interceptions in 10 games. That isn't going to do it. Our next question, state your name, fire away.
Good afternoon. My name is Vaughn Brennan. I'm with Bergeron Motors. And I was in Chicago yesterday afternoon watching the Steelers game, and all of a sudden there was the Saints game. And I was able to see the overtime. And I tell you, the crowd right there in Midway Airport was just gravitated to the screen. And what I noticed was these phenomenal plays, which included the overturn call for the 4th down, and then stopping that line. I want to hear you guys talk about how valiant our line was, and which really put us up for that field goal.
Torrance?
Well, force the 4th down stop. As far as the 4th down stop, we were ready for it. We stuffed the middle. We went all out in the middle, which I think we had to. If the guys were going to do anything, if they'd went outside, I think they would have got big yardage. But we sold out going to the middle on it, and they weren't able to get the first down. Now, Turner, I would have made that call. I think I would have took my 6'4" quarterback and 6'5" quarterback and just took him straight up the middle for three inches. But they chose other.
Well, you're teasing what we're getting into next, because when we return in just a moment, we're going to put Brian Allee-Walsh on the skewer, on the hot seat, and watch him toast and roast and burn, and we'll do the same. And we'll throw some more flames on the fire by the time we're finished as we continue with Sports NOLA TV from Bergeron Motors, Veterans Boulevard in North Arnold in Metairie. Back in just a moment. Our trivia question for Sports NOLA TV: who did the Saints defeat for the franchise's first ever overtime win? Do you know? Did you get it right? The Chicago Bears. September 18, 1983 in the Superdome. Who was the coach of the Bears? Mike Ditka was. Was it 33-30 or 34-31? One of the two. My memory serves me correct. No notes in front of me. Just remember that. And Morton Anderson decided the outcome in the Superdome in what was his second year as a New Orleans Saint. Ken Trahan with you, Sports NOLA TV from Bergeron Motors, Veterans in North Arnold in Metairie. It is time now for our hot seat segment, where we put Brian Allee-Walsh on the hot seat. Today's topic: what do you think? 4th down and a foot, overtime, and you decide to go for it. Right or wrong decision, Mr. Walsh?
I'm going to take exception with what you just said now, Mr. Trahan. It was 4th and that long, all right?
Well, it depends on whose foot we're talking.
Now, look, here's what happened. We all know that Mike Smith puts the punting unit out, pulls them off, takes timeout, puts the offensive unit out. Greg Williams calls a timeout, gets the defensive scheme ready. I have no problem with the Falcons going for it. And I remember texting this to John Forcade. I said, but do not hand the ball off to Michael Turner. You've got a 6'5" quarterback who weighs 240 pounds. Let him make the decision. Let him go sneak for it. All right? Now, if you're not going to do that, then punt the ball away. And you know what, Mike Smith, this game is going to haunt the Falcons all season long. I promise you.
I say don't. If it was me, I punt the ball. Punt the ball, give my defense opportunity. You never know. Drew Brees might try to force one. Over the last few weeks, he has been trying to force some balls, turning the ball over. I think they just gave him too much credit just then. I would have punted the ball and at least gave my team an opportunity.
Yeah, I think so, Kenny. I think you got to punt the ball. You can't take a chance inside your 30-yard line. I mean, you're giving a game away. Too many things could happen. A fumble snap, there's stuff to play, or the play calling was atrocious. But you can't, the Saints were stacked up and ready to go over that.
Kenny, there was, we were talking about another play off air was on the onside kick with 4:15 left. When Mike Smith called it, I'm going, wait a minute, there's plenty of time here. What that tells me on both occasions, all right, the 4th and 1 and the onside kick, Mike Smith does not believe in his defense. That's what it tells me right there. He has no faith or trust in his defense that they can stop Drew Brees. And really, when you think about it, they did a pretty solid job against him in the 4th quarter and in the first part of the overtime period. So Mike Smith, I'm telling you, he's going to come back. That's going to haunt him all season long.
I agree with you on that. Definitely is going to hunt them. You cannot lose a game like this in your division. It's just too hard to win ball games in the NFL. And to give one up on 2 bad calls, I say 2 bad calls that he made, the onside kick and the short yardage, I think just was wrong.
You know, it also shows, Kenny, when I saw that shows a lot of confidence in your offensive line. And if your offensive line has that kind of confidence from your coach and they can't get you 3 inches, you have a problem. So that went from highest of high to lowest of low.
I agree with that. I agree with that. And that's why I say that I would have at least snuck the ball with my quarterback.
Disagree.
Yeah.
You don't like the offensive. You like your offensive line, but you don't like your defense. That's what he's saying to his team.
Yeah.
Time for a verdict?
No.
Or you're going to get one anyway, whether you like it or not. Listen, I have no problem with the call. I agree with Brian. I have a problem with the play they called. I couldn't agree more. Quarterback sneak makes it easy. He's 6'5". Take the snap, lean, and you've got it. And oh, by the way, fullbacks always propel quarterbacks forward by pushing them from behind. You needed a couple of inches. It was that simple. Why is Mike Smith an idiot when Bill Belichick is considered a genius? On 4th and 2 from his own 28 in 2009 against the Colts in the playoffs, he goes for it, doesn't make it, and most of the media around the country support him and say, hey, I would have gone for that. He's Bill Belichick. He's got Tom Brady at quarterback. Listen, if you're Drew Brees, Sean Payton loves to gamble. He trusts his quarterback. But therein lies the issue. Sean Payton would have put the ball in the hands of his best player. The Falcons ran a slow-developing run against a goal line defense shooting gaps, and that was a mistake. Again, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. The reason that people will give Belichick the shadow of the doubt in this situation, and they would give Sean Payton reasonable doubt, is because they have the skins on the wall. They've won Super Bowls. Mike Smith, he's never won a playoff game. So, therefore, it's beauty in the eye of the beholder. You're looking at who the protagonist is, and you're making a decision based on that. Look, if he makes the first down, it's not an issue, is it? Of course, they still have to drive the football, but you have a Saints defense that's been on the field for quite some time. And one other thing to consider, Lenny Van Gilder and I were right on it because we thought the same thing at the same time while we're involved in our live chat at sportsNOLA.com about the game. Last year's game in Atlanta, 17-14, Saints went over the Falcons. What happened? The Falcons punted the ball to the Saints when they still had 2 timeouts and the 2-minute warning. And guess what? They never got the ball back. Don't you think Mike Smith remembered that? Don't you think he did not have confidence that they could stop Drew Brees given that scenario? I guarantee you that entered into his mind. Case closed. As always, we like to inspire you by giving you a marvelous minute with a gentleman who is always inspirational. Marvin LeBlanc, nationally recognized speaker and full-blooded Cajun, grew up in Duplessis. If you know where that is, good for you. We don't, but that's okay. It's in Louisiana. We know this. You can always get inspired by his messages. Great author and a very good speaker, and he's here to speak today, as always, on sportsNOLAtv. Here's my friend, Marvin LeBlanc.
Yes, Kitty, you are right. Duplessis, Louisiana is quite small. Matter of fact, Bergeron Chrysler is much bigger than my hometown. But hey, let's go into today's subject, and today's subject is tackling procrastination in the workplace. I had a conversation with a team member last Friday morning, and she was really concerned because she needed to make a call, a tough customer call on some not so good news. So what did she do? She was anxious all day long. Finally, around 3:30 Friday afternoon, she finally made the call. And guess what? The call wasn't really nearly as bad as she thought it was. Here's the point. Early in the day, kiss your ugly frogs first thing in the morning. What's an ugly frog? It's a job description or a task that you need to do, and you need to get it done first thing. Don't procrastinate. The next thing is, if you go to marvinleblanc.com, there's going to be a Get It Done Today form that will help you and your team members immensely. I want to close with something from the new book, Come Hell or High Water, by Marvin LeBlanc, Life Lessons from Hurricane Katrina. If you're worried about procrastination, repeat this 12 times before you go to bed. Tomorrow, I will do everything that should be done, when it should be done, and as it should be done. I will perform the most difficult task first because this will destroy the habit of procrastination and develop the habit of action in the workplace. What I want you to do out there is when you have your next meeting and you need a speaker to tackle that procrastination, call marvinleblanc.com. Back to you, Ken.
Outstanding, as always. Marvin, did you notice he's wearing a Saints shirt today? He wore an LSU shirt last week. He's all over it, okay? Bandwagon man, he's got it figured out. Tigers beat Alabama, you get the purple and gold. Saints beat the Falcons, you get the black and gold. Now that's a miraculous, marvelous, inspiring man. He knows which side his bread is buttered on. He's got it figured out, guys. That's a smart man.
The biggest problem, Kenny, is I haven't earned enough respect to get that WHNO 20 television show. But hey, maybe next week I'll have one of those. Woo!
That's an on-air lobby. Dean, you've been called out. That's marvelous, Marvin LeBlanc. Thanks, Marvin. As always, we appreciate the inspiration. Of course, we're not finished yet. When we return in just a moment, we'll take a look at those LSU Tigers as they continue their quest for success to be the best in the nation, which they are right now, as sportsNOLAtv continues. Saints analysis from Brian Allee-Walsh on their win over the Falcons. You can get my takes on the game as well. LSU still number one, unanimous in the AP poll. Read about the Tigers. College football with Rene Nadeau talking about the Sun Belt Conference recruiting and more. And of course, high school coverage unparalleled. Read about everything from the first week of the prep playoffs and some previews of what's to come in the regional round of the state playoffs, all at the best site in Louisiana and beyond, sportsNOLA.com. Ken Trahan with you for sportsNOLA TV, and of course the LSU Tigers, as I alluded to, number one in the nation, unanimous in the AP poll. That's the first time that's happened in a couple of years, and they are coming off of a big win over Western Kentucky. The Hilltoppers, solid team from the Sun Belt Conference, but on this night, no match for LSU, despite playing well early against the Tigers and pushing them in the first half. Jordan Jefferson got the start, struggled a little bit, but then finds Ruben Randall on the long score. And Rene, as you look at this game, it's kind of what you expected. LSU a bit flat, and a team that came in loaded for bear, played them pretty tough for a while.
Well, you know, in LSU, I've done a bunch of these games, Kenny, and LSU always starts slow against an opponent such as this, but once they get their sea legs underneath them, they really get right in. And the thing is that LSU is just too powerful for Western Kentucky, and even on an off day, if you want to call it that, they put up a lot of points and really gave Western Kentucky little chance at all to win.
Amazing depth on this LSU team, Brian, all around. Alfred Blue gains over 100 yards. You've hardly seen him this year. He steps up, becomes the feature back in this game. Boy, they've got options.
Second half alone, Kenny, he had a career kind of game just in the second half alone. You're right. The depth is one of the most amazing assets of this team, and it's what's carried them all throughout the season. Somebody goes down, somebody steps up.
Torrance, one of the surprises, Jordan Jefferson not only started the game, he plays the first three quarters. We don't even see Jared Lee. My guess is there's more to this than meets the eye when a guy suddenly just completely disappears after leading this team to where he led them.
Well, if you're looking at it, it seems like Jordan Jefferson's going to get his starting position back. And is that a bad move? No. Either one of those guys can start for this team and help this team win. But I think Jordan Jefferson just gives them more options when he's in there.
Well, as a result of LSU defeating Western Kentucky and some other happenings from around the country, the BCS standings mixed up again and changing all around. The Tigers still on top by a fairly comfortable margin, but look who's up to number 2. Les Miles' former team, Oklahoma State. Alabama back up to 3. And look at Oregon, who LSU dismissed to start the season. Oklahoma is at 5. Arkansas, LSU still has them coming up, followed by Clemson, Virginia Tech, Stanford, and Boise State, both dropping pretty much out of the national title picture with losses. Renee, as a result, it's starting to look like it's going to be either LSU against Alabama in a rematch or LSU against Oklahoma State. Either way, you've got a good matchup.
Yeah, and I really think that most people, and I don't think a lot of people around the country want to see a rematch with Alabama and LSU. Those rematches never pan out the way you think they're going to do. Oklahoma State has a tough matchup with Oklahoma. I really think right now I would favor Oklahoma State in a matchup against Oklahoma, in a game against Oklahoma. But I can see right now if LSU stays on course. And that Arkansas game is going to be tough. Throw away the home field advantage. Arkansas has beaten LSU at home. But I think that I could see them going into the SEC championship against Georgia, primed and ready to know that they're coming home in basically a home game in the Superdome in the BCS title.
They first have to go on the road at Ole Miss, and even though they're no good and their coach is on the way out, you got to show up because Ole Miss wants to make you their bowl game, Torrance.
Oh yes, we have to show up. We have to go in there. I think if they take it to them early, they'll give in. You know, this is a team that's ready to pack it up. The coach is on his way out. Kids looking for somebody else to come in. If you go in and take, we jump on them early, get them out of the game, they'll lay down.
Brian, any fallout from Jefferson starting this past game in your mind?
Well, you know, there's a speculation out of Baton Rouge that Jared Lee's you might have to do with some academics.
Correct.
Okay? And we'll see what happens because it was kind of odd that you don't see him until the fourth quarter. Especially after Les Miles paid so much attention to try and keep both guys happy after the Alabama game. So we'll see if there's any fallout from that, Kenny.
No question. As for Tulane, more of the same. They faced an undefeated Houston team, and it was a Thursday night affair. Rich Rodriguez was in attendance. Remember that. Cougars roll over the wave, 73-17. Houston could end up in a BCS, Renee.
They could, and I've done a Houston game, and they are high-powered. They got great receivers in Edwards and Carrier. They throw a lot of yards. In fact, the game I did with Houston and Louisiana Tech, and they were losing by 20 points in the fourth quarter, came back. Case Keenum may not be ready for the NFL the way he is, but he's got an arm.
I got a question. Are they a poor man's Boise State, or are they a rich man's Boise State?
I'd compare them with Boise State.
I think they're similar.
Yeah, real similar. They'd be a fun team to have down here in New Orleans.
Would be.
Okay.
Stay tuned for the Sugar Bowl.
Yes.
We'll see.
Yes.
They'll be able to bring fans, not too far.
Yeah.
But the big story with Tulane is the coaching search at this stage.
Well, that's, losing 73, about 70 points, it's not going to help the search. So I wish
no
the
truth
best
to
for
the
them.
rumor that Torrance Small is going to be the next Tulane coach?
Yes.
He's the only one that's not been mentioned for the job.
I can do that. I think I can bring the recruiting there.
All right.
Give me the opportunity.
Wow.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. We're looking for a spot on the dais now.
That's it. Well, what are you going to
Get
do?
my season tickets.
Well, if you want to succeed at Tulane, you've got to give them the opportunity to succeed, as we've talked about many times, when it comes to facilities, when it comes to financial commitment, and when it comes to long-term commitment. So, as a result, we'll see what they do with this coaching search. I mentioned Rich Rod was in town, but Ole Miss likes him a lot too. And given the choice, I don't know. I think he might head to Oxford if it's a choice. If not, if you have a chance to get him, I think you do it. And you give him the keys and say, go with it like you should have done in 1998. Stay tuned as the Tulane coaching saga continues. It's time now to turn our focus to high school football. And if you want to be successful at Tulane, recruit players like this. Our prep player of the week, senior running back J.J. Brown of Archbishop Rummel, who just single-handedly carried a team that's beat up like you wouldn't believe on his back. 33 carries, 317 yards, and 2 touchdowns against a very physical and good Higgins football team. Rummel wins 31-28. J.J. Brown, our sportsNOLAtv prep player of the week, for his outstanding effort. And congratulations to JJ. And of course, JJ plays in a league where all the teams are good, including Brother Martin. And let me tell you something. When you play football in that league, you're going to go against very good opponents. And Brother Martin had a very good year as well. And they are the subject of this week's profile on sportsNOLAtv.
Mark Bonice, first of all, congratulations on what you've done with this Brother Martin team this year. No one gave you a chance, and here you are in the playoffs with a chance to go all the way.
Well, appreciate it a lot. It's I got to give credit to my coaches as well as my players. They've bought into what we're doing. We have started a whole bunch of new guys, and we graduated a lot of guys last year, but they've really bought in. They've played hard, and that's the reason why we are where we are.
Losing so many seniors, your players say, when no one expected this team to go anywhere, you and your coaching staff pulled them together, and here you are. What was the key to that?
From the very beginning, we talked about not rebuilding but reloading, and our kids bought into that. We worked real hard in the weight room during the off season, and that was very important for us. We changed or tweaked a few things in the weight room, which helped us out. And then, the big difference was is believing in what we could do, and then also improving from week to week, and that's the key.
When you talk like that, you talk about building a program, and Bobby Conlon, so many years here building a program. St. Aloysius, the roots of this program, so many years of great football in the history. Do you tell that to these kids? Does it still mean anything to young kids today?
Definitely. That's the important thing. We had been successful for several seasons here, but what our goal is and what my goal here is as head coach is to build a strong program like was run by Coach Conlon. And they were so strong, through the 80s and 90s, really 70s, 80s, and 90s, and that's our goal here. We have great kids, and the big thing is just making them commit and have them buy into our program principles.
This school has a great tradition going all the way back to St. Aloysius on Rampart Street, to the Bobby Conlon years on Elysian Fields, and now the Crusader program in great hands with third-year head coach Mark Bonice. For sportsNOLAtv, I'm Ken Berthelot.
Thanks to Ken Berthelot and Brother Martin. Outstanding program, made the state playoffs. Mark Bonice, a great guy. Don't forget Talking Chalk, 6:30 Tuesdays with Ken Berthelot here on WHNO Channel 20. When we return in just a moment, we'll take a look ahead at the Saints' upcoming schedule following a bye as we continue with sportsNOLAtv from Bergeron Motors Veterans in North Arnold in Metairie. The Giants and the Saints, next Saints game after the bye week, Monday, November 28th. That's right, Monday Night Football. Giants lead the all-time series 14-11. Saints, of course, won the last meeting in convincing fashion. Giants could not stop the Saints in that game. And, of course, Eli Manning returning home. He's having a very good year for the G-Men this year. Ken Trahan with you. Bergeron, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Volvo, 35-25 veterans in North Arnold in Metairie. So the Saints have the Giants up next, and of course the upcoming schedule also has the Detroit Lions coming to town, then at Tennessee, as I alluded to, on December 11th. Okay, Brian, Saints beat the Falcons. I think that's a swing game. They come out of the break. I think they win at least two of these next three, if not all three.
I agree, totally. I like them at home. They've been playing great football at home. It's going to be an interesting thing to see the Giants pass rush against the Saints offensive line and Drew Brees in the passing game. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Rene, I think the Lions have been exposed. They can't run the ball at all, one-dimensional, and as a result, I think teams have caught up with them to a degree.
Yeah, and I think the next two games are going to be winnable games for the Saints. I got to say this, Kenny. When I think of the Giants and the Saints, I think the Yankee Stadium in 1967 when Greg Larson, center for the Giants, took a cheap shot on Tom Hall and Steve Stonebreaker made a beeline across the field, and that's how, showed the support of the Saints fans. I remember that.
That's how the touchdown
That's
club
how the
was born.
touchdown club got started.
Let's try that again. That's how the touchdown club got started.
There you go. We're all over the history of this. I bet you knew nothing about that.
Knew nothing. I appreciate the lesson, guys.
It's all good.
All you old guys.
All us old guys. That's right. You said it, man. You'll be there too one day. Stay tuned.
Touchdown you're not familiar with.
Saints in good shape, right, Torrance? You think they're in good shape here?
I think the Saints are in good shape. I think right now, two things we learned during on this break. One, we get to learn a lot more about the Giants, and two, we need to learn a little bit more about ourselves, what tendencies we have, so we can improve on that.
And Brian, the Saints clearly fed off of Sean Payton being back on the sidelines. We've talked about it ad nauseum here. It does make a difference.
You know what? And until the dynamics of the last drive and the regulation and overtime, I loved him taking his crutch and pointing it on a first down.
Awesome.
It was a great shot.
But do you remember in the hot seat you said he didn't have to be there?
I like it with the crutch. I didn't say that he has to be there. I just thought it was a good shot with the crutch. Don't put words in my mouth. Touchdown small.
You must have a crutch yourself.
Short-term memory loss, okay? The old guys can't
See,
remember
that's why
all
you're
that
in the
stuff.
middle.
How did I get here?
How did you get here?
That's a good question.
Hey, by the way,
How
Rene,
did you get here?
I love the call to Jed Collins in overtime. That's vintage
Oh,
Sean
man,
Payton.
that
They're
was
not
a
going to sit
great-
on the ball. Great call. Made the field goal easy.
That was great. And the thing is that this team is really has a lot of confidence right now. And just like that Rams game kind of knocked them back a couple of notches, man, they know where they are now. The Saints are feeling really good about themselves and know they can finish off the season. You know, the rest of the way, next 2 games are going to be interesting.
And Mark Ingram, 2 solid runs at the end of that game.
Oh, great runs. Got us down the field, get us a little closer, made it a little easier chip shot.
Help his confidence, too. Rene Nadeau, great to have you with us. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you very much, Kenny.
Brian, is always a pleasure,
Thank you, my friend.
Torrance, great to have you with us.
Glad to be here. Looking forward to a little break with the guys, but we'll be back.
All
the
right.
guys take a break, but we'll be back.
For Torrance and Brian and Renee, I'm Ken Trahan saying thanks for joining us and be a good sport. God bless you one and all. For Sports NOLA TV, rounding third and heading home. So long.